That's the way it works. And sometimes they'll accuse a person of deception regarding the control question just to let them think that, they didn't quite get off because, they secretly assume everyone has taken something. So it's a fairly safe thing to accuse someone of some deception when they say no to having done that. So the point is, if Bruce Ivins had researched polygraphy at all, he would understand that the question about taking stuff from work was a control question, that it's not really what they're concerned about. And, so it seems to me odd that someone who really understands polygraphy would think that he had, had some trouble with that question.
Well, one thing that is really apparent after spending some time at antipolygraph.org, or if you just spend an hour watching that episode of Penn and Teller BS that anybody can download from the Pirate Bay there, is that this thing really is just a racket, isn't it? This is, it's like phrenology or something. It's one of these pseudosciences where, we'll tie a rock to her chest and we'll throw her in the river. And if she drowns, then she wasn't a witch. She'll go to a good Christian death. But if she is a witch, then we'll know because she gets away.
Yeah,
and then we'll tie her up and burn her.
Yeah, pseudoscience is really where it's at. It's like phrenology, measuring bumps on the head, thinking that it will give insights into a person's personality, or graphology, examining someone's handwriting and thinking that will, tell you whether they're telling the truth or not, or give you thoughts about their inner psyche.
It's like intuition masquerading as quantitative analysis, right?
Yeah, it's basically just a prop for an interrogation. The problem is a lot of the people who are giving these tests, they sincerely believe that it works, but they're subject to confirmation bias because, if they accuse someone of deception and they confess, that gives them positive reinforcement. But when they falsely accuse someone of deception and they don't confess, well, oftentimes they never really know if the person was guilty or not. So the great majority of the feedback they get tends to reinforce their belief in what they're doing. So we've got this government-sponsored pseudoscience, and that's how the FBI, in 2002, the same year that Ivins was polygraphed, and all these other scientists who worked with Anthrax were also polygraphed, the National Academy of Sciences issued a report saying that, polygraphy doesn't have a scientific basis, that polygraph screening is not to be relied upon. And yet our government has doubled down in its use on polygraphs. They're relying more heavily on them today than they were in 2002 when Ivins, as the FBI would have us believe now, beat the polygraph.
It reminds me of this story about this British company that sold these, little copper wires to the Iraqi police, and they were supposed to be bomb detectors. And, and the Iraqi police really believed in them. And even after they were completely debunked, they still believed in them. Yeah, exactly. It's like the story of the emperor's new clothes. What did the emperor do when the little boy pointed out that the emperor was naked? He didn't, put clothes on. He held his head up all the higher and continued parading down the street. And that's what our government is doing. That's what the Iraqi government is doing with the handheld bomb detector that is really a dowsing rod. And it's all about the consequences, right? Because if you believe in your dowsing rod to detect bombs, then bombs are going to get through. Your dowsing rod isn't going to do you any good. And if the FBI is relying on these polygraph tests, that means that good people like you are going to be excluded. And it also means that Aldrich Ames is going to continue being trusted years and years and years after he's a damn Soviet spy because he keeps passing the stupid polygraph test.
Right. These are the dangers, the false negatives when the liars pass. I should say, with regard to Ivins' case, I'm a bit troubled with the case as a layperson. The case that has been presented doesn't seem very persuasive. I remember how they went after another scientist named Steve Hatfill. For years they hounded him, and they actually ended up paying him a large settlement for the harm they caused to his reputation and career. And of course, Ivins, has conveniently committed suicide, so he's not here to defend himself. But another thing, not polygraph related, may be worth mentioning, and you might want to follow up on, is why did the FBI and Department of Justice close this investigation before the National Academy of Sciences has submitted its report on the scientific methods used by the FBI in this investigation?
Because they might have to start it all over again and frame up somebody else, I guess.
Well,
I'm sorry, George. I got to go. We're all out of time. I got to get Matt Harwood on the phone here. But you bring up a good point. You know, this is a story that I want to know the whole story, or at least as much as I can about it. And I think it's really time to get going on solving this thing. If the FBI ain't going to do it, it's going to have to be antiwar.com, right?
Indeed.
All right. Thanks very much, George. I really appreciate your time.
Okay. Bye-bye.
All right, y'all. That's George Maschke from antipolygraph.org. And it's really great stuff. In fact, this is what you should go read. The Lie Behind the Lie Detector by George W. Maschke and Gino J. Scalabrini. It's at antipolygraph.org and then /lie behind the lie detector.pdf, and then there's dashes in between all them words there, if that makes sense for you.